Thank you.
I'll remember that. Thank you. Ms. Court?
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, Chairman Mendelson and staff. Please accept these comments on behalf of the Coalition for Smarter Growth. We're the leading organization working locally in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan region, dedicated to making the case for smart growth. Our mission is to promote walkable, inclusive, and transit-oriented communities and the land use and transportation policies investments needed to make those communities flourish. We wish to express our support for Robert Miller in his reappointment to the Zoning Commission. I have known Mr. Miller and his work for many years and admire his long commitment to serving the public. He is always focused on using his knowledge and experience to better serve the public interest. Mr. Miller has always demonstrated interest and respect in all public input through the land use decision-making process. He has shown specific concern about the development review process and zoning decisions and how they can make the city a more inclusive place for low-income residents. He seeks out ways to create more affordable housing where it's possible. As for his qualifications, perhaps no one is more qualified. Mr. Miller has worked on DC's comprehensive plan and related land use matters since the 1980s as an aide to the DC Council Chairman, also with NCPC, and he has continued to work on land use policy for DC for all of these decades, and now is an experienced zoning commissioner. What DC needs more than ever right now is a thoughtful, concerned, and diligent commissioner to pay attention to the details while also ensuring that we are meeting the larger goals of creating and sustaining a truly inclusive city. Mr. Miller is an excellent choice for this responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Court. Mr. Otten?
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Otten, here with DC for Reasonable Development. Testifying before the DC City Council, which unfortunately doesn't seem to have a lot of grasp on holding the Zoning Commission accountable to the people of the District of Columbia. This will be Mr. Miller's second term, potentially on the Zoning Commission. Mr. Miller has never said no to a zoning application. Mr. Miller believes every project is a quote-unquote revitalization project, even though he won't look into how projects of the size of PUDs and the massive projects we see around the city increase displacement pressures, increase the impacts on public services like Metro, and increase the negative effects on the environment. Mr. Miller is one of 4 white men on the panel out of a 5-person appointed commission. Nobody on the Zoning Commission is from east of the river. Mr. Miller believes that 50 to 80% of the AMI, thanks to the help of people like Cheryl Court and the Smart Growth Movement, is somehow considered affordable. It's not. $1,200 to $1,500 a month housing costs are not affordable. I'm going to blow that myth right out of the water. But that doesn't seem to faze Mr. Miller's approval of the many projects that aren't inclusive. Mr. Miller doesn't care about black or brown families in D.C. Just take a look at his voting record on Brooklyn Manor, Barry Farms, and the Union Market explosion. So you can imagine, as a single mom with a couple of kids, going to the Zoning Commission and seeing a bunch of white men approve a project that displaces you consistently, time and time again. Mr. Miller is part of that parade, and so is the Smart Growth Movement. We need a change at the helm. We need more people on the commission that actually reflect the same demographics of those being displaced. We need people on the commission whose air and water are being negatively impacted and understand that by these large, massive, un-environmental projects. And we want folks on the commission who actually ride the buses in Metro daily. Because, as you can probably see, they're cutting Metro services. They're cutting bus services. Yet, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these projects are approved every year by Mr. Miller and this commission without any understanding of the impacts on the public services. Schools, recreation centers, libraries, public transit, the infrastructure, despite these impacts being basic, fundamental planning protocols found in the American Institute of Certified Planner books, found in the law. None of these things are being attended to by the Zoning Commission and by Mr. Miller. So we're here to say it's time for a change. We're asking the council not to reconfirm him, nothing personal, but it's time that we have somebody from east of the river on the commission. It is time that these hearings about something this dramatic of an important position happen at night when families can come who are facing displacement regularly by this commission. And so to conclude, we're asking you not to reconfirm him and to go ask the mayor to find a capable, competent person, because there's plenty of them from east of the river, that can sit on this commission and look at these issues through an objective lens. Thank you.
Thank